for something not quite as hot, but just as spicy, we found ourselves still in Gatlinburg at the Museum of Salt and Pepper Shakers. They have over 20,000 sets, and we're gonna try to see as many as we can. Come on.
We're going to a place that you've never heard of before. It's abnormal voyages. You're gonna learn something new. We're gonna open new doors. It's abnormal voyages.
Continuing our series on The Spice of Life, we find ourselves here in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, at the one and only Salt and Pepper Shaker Museum. Being by far one of the most unique and quirky museums we've been to yet, the Salt and Pepper Shaker Museum was founded in 2005 by Andrea Ludden. This museum is practically the only one of its kind in the entire world, with the sole other museum being a sister location that opened in Spain. But why Salt and Pepper Shakers? What started this collection? According to Miss Andrea Ludden, it all began over 35 years ago. Her family, which consisted of herself, her husband Rolf, and their kids, Andrea and Alex, realized one day that they didn't have a pepper mill that worked, so they set out to find one. At first, they found 1 or 2 pepper mills, then 3, 4. Soon, it just became a fun little entertainment for the family. From there, it didn't take long to branch into shakers, with all the different beautiful, artistic, and wacky designs that they had out there. Andrea is actually an archaeologist, and soon, the history and art of the shakers completely overtook her, causing her to amass quite a collection. After getting a digital camera for Christmas from her son, Andrea decided to use it to document her collection, which included boxes and boxes of shakers that were all underneath the house. As Andrea took pictures and careful measurements of each set of shakers, her husband Rolf had the job of lugging all the boxes up for her. Once the last box was finished, Rolf put his foot down and insisted Andrea needed to do something with all these shakers. That started Andrea thinking, and soon enough, the family was moving to the Great Smoky Mountains to open up this one-of-a-kind museum. One of the main purposes of this massive collection is to show how society has changed, represented by shakers. As you travel through the museum, there are pieces on display from all throughout history. The sections of the museum are grouped together either by material that the shakers are made out of, or if there is a theme. Also, each section is separated by pepper mills, which happen to be Rolf's favorite. Though the Salt and Pepper Shakers are definitely the star here, there happens to be over 1,500 pepper mills here at the museum as well. Whether it be the 1800s, the 1960s, or even present day, you'll find Salt and Pepper Shakers here that perfectly reflect what society was like at that time. A lot of shakers are grouped together by color, and while this is one of the more interesting museums, it's also very relaxing to just stroll through and look at the wonderful art in front of you. While at the museum, we were told that the number one question they always get is which shaker has the most or least amount of holes, salt or pepper. Surprisingly, there isn't actually a set answer for this, and it seems to vary by culture, health, and taste. For example, here in the United States, too much salt is considered bad for you. So, you'll happen to see a lot of shakers where salt is the one that has fewer holes. But, in parts of Europe, it's the complete other way around. It can also be determined by availability. In some places historically, salt was rare and valued as a prized substance, whereas in Europe, pepper was the rare and valuable spice, as it had to come all the way from the Orient. Another factor to keep in mind is the size of the grains themselves. Salt runs the gamut from big, coarse grains all the way to super fine little ones. And pepper comes in other forms as well, such as cracked versus ground. Ultimately, any number of things can dictate how many holes each respective shaker has, and there's no definitive standard. So next time you're buying a new salt and pepper shaker set, get whatever looks great to you. You don't usually think about salt and pepper when you're thinking of beverages. However, the different cups, cans, and bottles that hold beverages make some very cool shakers. The CocaCola ones here were amazing.
I am blown away by how many different varieties there are of salt and pepper shakers, but this is probably my favorite section, all dedicated to different animals.
We didn't have time to check for every breed, but I'm pretty sure at least most of them had a set or two in here. Who knew Dalmatians were such a big draw in the salt and pepper shaker world? A few of these cat shakers had actual fur on them, so I guess you could sit at the table and pet your shakers if you were bored. I was actually very surprised to see how many shaker sets that were made to look like chickens. I guess that's not an animal that I commonly associate with salt and pepper shakers. Then again, I'm not sure any animal in particular is one that I think of when it comes to that. They were very cute though. The cow section was really cute. This was one of the best ones. It was cows doing all sorts of things. Because, cows are very active social creatures. So, they get out there and live life. And people who see it make salt and pepper shakers out of them. I don't even have to say anything about this. The pigs were hilarious. I would gladly own a pair of shakers that were shaped like cool pigs. Mice was another section that really surprised me. I don't think before this I'd ever seen a set of shakers that were shaped like mice. There's also some skunks in there and other various animals. But a whole section on squirrels, just as surprising as the mice. I didn't think that they were necessarily that popular an animal, but this section vastly proved me wrong, because there was plenty of squirrels to go around for everybody. You'll notice some of these are just big walnuts or pine cones, which I think is really cool. I think those would go with a lot of very interesting decoration sets you could put up on your table. Bears, of course, made a lot of sense to me. You see a lot of bear merchandise. There was some honey hives up there with bees, and then a few other forest critters like owls and moose there. I really liked the bear section, and I particularly enjoyed the fact that it wasn't all just regular grizzlies or brown bears. You had a few other ones thrown in there, like polar bears. That was very cool to see. The frogs were awesome. Not only do they lend themselves to all kinds of personality, but green happens to be my favorite color. So this section, 2 thumbs way up. Don't get too excited. That's desert, not dessert. Here we had a lot of classic desert memorabilia. Some buildings, cowboys, cacti. There was even some tombstones there from Dodge City. So this was a little bit of the desert being used with your spices. I'm not sure what deer have to do with the desert, but they both start with D, so it was cool with me. Marine is such a big category. I'm really surprised that something like Squirrels has enough for its own section, and yet we don't have enough for something like alligators or penguins. There was a decent amount of penguins in here, but I mean, honestly, the world deserves a whole museum of nothing but penguin memorabilia, because penguins are great. Also, they definitely need some more pirate-themed shakers. We could always use more pirate-themed stuff. Being honest, I had no idea that shaker sets were such a popular wedding accessory. But after looking at these, it makes total sense. It's something that you keep around that you can put nice little messages on and things like that to celebrate your anniversary, your actual wedding date, things like that. Great keepsakes. Classic Americana was all throughout this section. Honestly, a lot of it reminded me of things that you would see maybe on Route 66 or roadside attraction type stuff. There was old TV shows like I Love Lucy, a couple of old fast food things, a lot of 50s type memorabilia. It was very interesting to see, and it kind of reinforces how throughout society and the ages, shakers have changed to fit whatever the current culture is. International was fascinating enough on its own. You could probably spend hours just looking at all the different ones here and all the different places they had represented. Each one kind of had its own story to tell, and you could have a lot of fun just trying to match each one with where you think it came from. I really liked it, seeing the different icons from the different countries. Very neat. It was also great seeing some of these ones that were older from different countries, and just seeing that historically, things were very, very different back then from what we would consider modern day. So that was a nice little glimpse to the past there. Souvenirs from the good old United States of America. Looking at these, you can just tell they are screaming gift shop. These are those great things that you find all over the place at all your favorite attractions. Each state had a lot represented here. You could tell where they came from, what they were all about in just one or two glances. Very, very cool. I love this set that was every single state, but I'm not sure what you would do with 50 different pieces of salt and pepper shakers. I guess you could find other things to fill it up with, but it seems like something that would be a little difficult to keep around and fully stocked. I guess if you had a lot of spices.
We're now entering into the vault, where there are shakers made of some of the rarest and most valuable substances on Earth.
This is where some of the showstoppers were kept. A lot of these were made out of silver, gold, platinum. Anything valuable that had been crafted into salt and pepper shakers was here in the vault. It was fascinating that somebody had actually taken the time to take these valuable substances and make them into salt and pepper shakers. Historically, you could see ones that looked like they probably used to belong to royalty and things like that. Lots of very interesting designs, and overall just the craftsmanship and artistry of it was really interesting. I love that there were so many that were made out of just solid gold. Who thinks, yeah, I want a solid gold salt and pepper shaker? That just seems like such an extravagant show of wealth. I love it.
This set is actually uranium and Vaseline glass. Luckily it's not harmful, but it looks really cool in the light. Check out what happens when I push this button. Very fancy.
And one of the most fun sections in the entire museum, this pop culture display that had all your favorite characters, TV shows, movies represented with colorful, stunning, really fun shaker sets. In a way, salt and pepper is something that brings us all together. Everybody's had salt and pepper before. It's something that we can all relate to. And this museum does an amazing job of highlighting and cherishing that fact. Well, thank you so much for tagging along on our Spice of Life series. My name is David, and this is Abnormal Voyages. We'll see you in the next one.